Good morning, you guys. Today we are attempting this vision I had for a I'm calling it my whimsy cake of the summer. My sister-in-law, Jonah, and then two of my friends recently had their birthdays in the last like 2 weeks. This weekend, tomorrow actually, we're gonna do like a combined birthday picnic. I think it'll be really cutesy doodle. That's so weird to say, but I think it'll be really cute. I was like dying to make a really fun cake recently, and then we all decided to do this little picnic, and I was like, oh, this is perfect. I can make y'all's birthday cake. And all of last year I did homemade DIY sprinkles, which I'll be doing for two of my friends' birthdays coming up in a few weeks. But this time I wanted to really make it just fun and whimsical. The cake, I'm so obsessed with this flavor right now, is going to be a strawberry rhubarb cake. So let me explain the vision I have for it. Like, I'll tea down before I spill it on me. I'm planning on doing 3 9-inch cake layers, so kind of like a regular layered cake, and it's going to have a strawberry Swiss meringue buttercream. You guys know how much I love a Swiss meringue buttercream. And then I'm going to attempt to have that recipe and do 2 or 3 6-inch layers right on top. I might do regular buttercream for that one, or maybe like a cream cheese to switch it up. In between the layers, or the actual cake is going to be like a vanilla chiffon cake. There's going to be a homemade strawberry rhubarb compote, not jam. I feel like compote because I don't make it as sweet as jam. I want it to be very fruity. Like, I want it to taste like you're biting into a super juicy and sweet yet sour strawberry rhubarb at the same exact time. Yeah, that's it. And then you know the frosting. And then tomorrow I'm gonna go to the farmer's market and get some wildflower, like a wildflower bouquet to decorate it with. I'm gonna use freeze-dried strawberries for the buttercream, so I'm hoping that it'll be like a bright pink color. Maybe I'll keep half of it white, like split up into 2 batches, half white, half pink, and then somehow swirl it together and then decorate it with all the wildflowers. So I think it'll turn out really whimsical if this vision follows through. So let's get started. I was going to start on the cake layers first because those have to completely cool, but I ran out of flour. I'm making some cast iron grilled pizzas tomorrow with my sourdough pizza dough. I'm gonna instead start on the compote, which is literally 4 ingredients. It's strawberries, fresh rhubarb, sugar, and lemon juice, which is gonna act as like the thickening agent, or it's gonna give it that jam-like texture. Guys, I planted 2 3-year-old because you can't actually start picking your rhubarb plant until it's at least 3 years old. 4 years is like super ideal, which present day it's like, oh my gosh, I have to wait 3 to 4 years to actually like fully enjoy rhubarb. But then future you thinks past you. Thankfully though, I did find someone online that was selling 3-year-old rhubarb roots, so I planted those and they're doing well. I only planted them like a month and a half ago, and they're doing pretty good. This little rhubarb piece came off my first rhubarb stalk, and look at the comparison to the store-bought one. It's quite funny. We'll get there eventually though, and then we'll have limitless rhubarb. Usually I like to split the rhubarb and the strawberries 50-50, so half rhubarb, and I like to chop up the rhubarb pretty finely. It does break down really well. Like, you wouldn't think, because it has the texture of celery in a way, except it's not as stringy. Sometimes celery can be a little stringy. But because it has that more firmer texture, I do like to chop it up pretty finely. The strawberries, I just dice them, I guess you would say. Also, I learned last year, my sister-in-law made I need to sharpen my knives, made strawberry lemonade. We did it together after we made strawberry rhubarb donuts last spring with the strawberry tops. Look at how much strawberry is typically left. Not saying I always do it that way, but when you slice the tops off of strawberries, it just seems so wasteful. So to make strawberry lemonade, I've seen people make strawberry coffee syrup with the strawberry tops, which is something I really want to try out. All right, I'm gonna try and measure this out so you guys can have exact measurements. I'm really bad when it comes to baking. It's like I know the basic ratios, so sometimes I just eyeball. Actually, I eyeball a lot of things, but for you guys, I don't eyeball them. All right, 2 cups of rhubarb. And I like to pack the fruit in there pretty well. I'm gonna chop up some more rhubarb and strawberries because this is gonna break down about 1/3 or 1/4 of what it is now. It's gonna get super juicy and beautiful and gorgeous and delicious. And I want lots of it, so BRB. I'm taking a pause in the strawberry rhubarb compote because I need to do something for work at 9 and I want to get the cakes in the oven. So we're gonna start off by beating our granulated cane sugar and eggs together. It's funny because when I first started baking, like from scratch, when I was like in late middle school, high school era, I don't know what possessed me, but I would never beat my eggs and my sugar together prior and then like my egg, sugar, and butter prior or egg, sugar, and olive oil prior, which is what we're gonna do today to help keep the cake really, really moist. A high oil content is key. But yeah, even with my cookies, I didn't do that. I was like, what? Looking back, it makes sense because I was so young and so like early in making, just having fun in the kitchen. But I'm like, dang girl, you are missing out on the best texture ever. So that's what we're doing. We're beating our 3 eggs and our 1.5 cups of granulated cane sugar for about 2 minutes. It's gonna become light and fluffy and pale. And yeah. So you're gonna notice this almost like melted soft serve texture. It's gonna be thick and yeah, I showed you guys. I'm really terrible at describing things. All right, next up, we're gonna add our olive oil. If you don't love the strong taste of olive oil, which comes with the polyphenols, which are really great for you, you can just use any neutral oil. I just really love olive oil. I love the benefits for you. You can use one that's like mixed olives, so it's not as strong. Where's my spoon? And then we're going to add some sour cream, which is again gonna help add moisture to the cake, and then buttermilk. Adding acidity to your cakes is the key to them staying moist, not just the day of, but like literally days, like 4 to 5 days. This is especially important in cupcakes because cupcakes lose their moisture so fast. And I always prep my cakes the day before an event, so I want to make sure it's going to taste good for the next like 2 to 3 days at minimum. And we're going to beat this just for another 2 minutes. I also need to add some vanilla. Might do some Mexican vanilla bean paste. This stuff is literally the best thing when baking. So the liquid mixture is definitely going to be very loose at this point, and I went ahead and pre-mixed my flour, baking powder, baking soda, and salt. And we're going to mix this just until combined. Over-mixing the batter can result in a more dense cake, so I'm just going to keep it on low speed and stop it every once in a while. Because my biggest fear is a dense cake, once I start seeing the flour mixture pretty much absorbed, but there's little like flour crumbs along the edges, I'll take a spatula and I'll just fold that in. And you do want to scrape down the sides as well. And if it looks clumpy at all, you can give it a nice light mix and then be done. Because it will, as long as the flour is absorbed and not showing floury clumps, like it's going to bake out very beautifully. So now we'll transfer this to our 3 9-inch cake pans, which mine don't match. I've lost my 3rd cake pan that matches my pink set, so I don't know where it went. I like to use a larger measuring spoon to help make sure it's evenly divided out. So these will go in the oven, how long have I tested this for? 18 to 22 minutes. Or, key trick, is until a toothpick inserted into the center in the last like 5 minutes you can start checking. You don't really want to open the oven door prior to that because it can release heat and then the cake can drop or just not bake well. And you don't necessarily want the toothpick to come out clean. You want it to come out with moist crumbs because it's going to continue to bake just a little bit, not a lot, just a little bit in the pan because we're going to let it rest in the pan like 10-20 minutes before we transfer it to a wire rack. Forgot to preheat my oven, so that's what I'm doing now. Then I'm going to toss these in, and I think I might go ahead and get started on having this batch and doing, or I might do the full amount to put it in the 6-inch cake pans, which are these little guys. But I feel like 3 would be really tall, so it might look strange. I'm back and we put the cakes in the oven, or at least the first batch of cakes. And now I'm back to our strawberry rhubarb compote, which I'm adding freshly squeezed lemon juice and then just a little bit of sugar. And we're gonna bring this to a boil, which you're gonna be like, Lauren, how on earth am I bringing fruit to a boil? It's the lemon juice that we really wanna see bubbling. I need to stir this together too. And then we're going to add the saucepan lid and simmer this on low heat for about 10 minutes typically. Since this is like triple the batch that I normally make. Though, to think about it, I should make this much every time because it is the best thing on like morning toast, like sourdough toast or like a cinnamon raisin bagel. So good. So we're gonna let it simmer probably with this batch, maybe like 10-15 minutes, do a little bit longer. And then we'll remove the saucepan lid and let it simmer uncovered for another like 5-10 minutes. That's where it's covering it is where all the juices are gonna come out, and it's gonna look almost like a little too liquidy. And then when we remove the cover, it's going to start evaporating all that liquid and reducing it so that it becomes nice and jam-like. One of the tricks to know when your jam, your compote, your lemon curd, anything of that sort is done is the back of the spoon method. I don't know, you can like scoop up a little bit of it and then run your finger down the back of a spoon, and if it leaves a clear streak, you're set. And it'll continue to like thicken up over time as it cools. The first cakes are done. Now we got a little extra brown. Cool. Perfect. Perfect. I'm currently working on the second batch of cake batter, and I thought I'd share with you guys. If you have a garden, my little hack is to not throw away my eggshells, but I just give them a quick little rinse in cold water, and then I'll let them dry out, and they'll really easily crush into a bunch of little tiny pieces. Eggshells are great, especially when you have organic eggs, for adding calcium to your garden, which helps prevent blossom end rot, which if you notice, if you grow zucchini or tomatoes, where the very ends, where some of the little browns blossom end, it will start getting really dark and brown and sometimes black, and then it'll begin to rot the tomato or the zucchini or even like cucumbers. I don't really deal with cucumbers a lot. Mainly zucchini is my problem. Yeah, so adding calcium to your garden in any form, but eggshells are really cheap and efficient form of adding calcium, will help produce really healthy fruits in the garden. A little tidbit of the day. Now it's time for the Swiss meringue buttercream, which I'm making double a batch. One batch is, like I mentioned earlier, we're gonna keep normal, and the other one we're going to hopefully naturally dye pink. Oops, I'm doing this opposite. With some freeze-dried strawberries. So I'm just dividing out the egg whites and the egg yolks. Keep the egg yolks and cover them, store them away in a glass container, or I'm just using a little pottery cup, and then I'll cover it with like saran wrap. Because you can make custards with it, custard ice cream, because now it's summertime, not technically, but one thing you don't want to do is get any egg yolk in your egg whites, because it can prevent them from beating well, and my egg yolk just separated into my egg whites. We'll keep this for like a omelet, but I'll be right back. But we need 6 egg whites, that's what we're working towards. I like to use my stainless steel bowl instead of my wood bowl for this, because we are putting it over boiling water, which you want whatever bowl you use. It doesn't have to be your stand mixer bowl. You could use a large mixing bowl. You just want to be bigger than the rim of your saucepan, and you want to fill your saucepan with like 2 inches of boiling water. And to the egg whites, we're going to add sugar, which is going to help stabilize it and just create this beautiful velvety texture in the buttercream. And I'm gonna get my whisk, because we're gonna whisk this until the sugar is completely dissolved, and you want to continue to whisk it so that the eggs don't cook along the edges of the bowl. So after you've initially beat this for 1 minute, we're just gonna continue to whisk it so until the sugar has completely dissolved. And one little test I like to do to see if the sugar has dissolved is you kind of pinch a little bit, and if it's a little gritty, like you can feel the graininess of the sugar, keep it going. So it's done when it's perfectly smooth between your fingers. Now it's time to add our butter, which I've already cubed into tablespoon-sized pieces. A few tips though before we start adding our butter. First, being the most important tip, is to make sure that your meringue is completely cooled to room temperature. Honestly, even a little colder than room temperature, because you're going to be using softened butter. Now, you don't want it so soft that it just squishes between your fingers. It should still hold some firmness, like some shape to it. And we're going to put this on a low speed and begin to incorporate it into our meringue. If at any point, if you feel your meringue is too warm, if the bowl is too warm, toss it in the fridge for like 10-15 minutes. If you begin to add the butter and it begins to be super, almost soupy and soft, stop adding the butter and then just go ahead and pop it in the fridge for like 30 minutes. If it's very soupy, an hour. All that's really doing is just firming up the butter again, and then you re-whip it and it should turn into the perfect velvety buttercream. I went ahead and popped my Swiss meringue buttercream in the fridge for 10 minutes because I started noticing it getting looser, and so I was like, the bowl must be a little bit warm. So while that's in the fridge, I went ahead and sliced all the tops, the very tippity tops, off our cake layers, because even if they're even, I just personally think it tastes better if you take the very tops off of them, and it makes them even for frosting. Now I'm going to take all my freeze-dried strawberries and blend them into a powder. I have to do this in batches. I'm hoping I have enough, like it doesn't just go light pink. I want it to be really like bright pink. Where is my top to this? Oh my word, it's literally right here. Nice. I'm gonna shake it up because I don't want it to, sometimes when you blend freeze-dried fruit, it can become very clumpy, and I want it to stay a powder. Look at that, perfect powder. Okay, I'm gonna do the second batch and then finish our first half of the buttercream. I finished the Swiss meringue buttercream, and I added a little bit of dragon fruit powder, which I keep for my DIY all natural dyed sprinkles, and I think it turned out really cute. I'm loving it. It tastes like strawberries too from the freeze-dried strawberries. I just don't think I had enough to make it really stand out pink, which is why I added the dragon fruit powder. I also made a huge batch of a classic cream cheese frosting. I did try to lighten it up a little bit. I added a lot of vanilla bean paste. You see a lot of vanilla bean speckles in here. And then I'm just running out of things today because I also ran out of heavy cream. So I'm using whole milk, which doesn't affect the texture much, but sometimes heavy cream can make a buttercream frosting a little bit lighter. So what I decided is, the reason I went ahead and did a batch of the cream cheese buttercream frosting, I wanted it to be white to complement the very bright strawberry rhubarb compote that we're gonna layer on top, which, let me grab that, is right here. This stuff I could eat by the spoon. And for this, I'm going to add the pink frosting, I think on the outside of the cake. Because also the thing with Swiss meringue buttercream is, like, this uses 2 sticks of butter, so 1 cup of butter, and it will frost, hopefully, all the inside of the cake. And this also uses 2 sticks of butter, 1 cup of butter, and it's probably only gonna frost outside. It's crazy how Swiss meringue, it's much lighter and not as sweet, and it's just velvety and luxuriously almost silky on the tongue, but it doesn't make as much as regular buttercream. So that's where we're at. I have my cake plate and cover, which this is the best way to store cakes, especially when made in advance. I've done it all over the years. I've wrapped it in foil, plastic. Nothing compares to a cake plate and cover. So I think I'm gonna have frost the first. I decided for the second batch of cake batter, I did 1 9-inch pan and then 2 6-inch pans. So these are gonna be our top layers. I think I'm gonna, in this cake plate, frost all 4 9-inch cake layers, and then I have a second cake plate, and that I'll frost and assemble our 2 6-inch layers. And then tomorrow, since I don't have one that goes that high, I will just stack them, and then I'm gonna make another batch of meringue buttercream that's pink, maybe white, who knows, to do some fun little decor on the outside. And then I'll go to the farmer's market and get flowers to decorate it. I have some edible glitter. Maybe somehow find a way to add some fresh strawberries. So let's assemble this baby. So typically I would take wood chopsticks, ones that you can easily snap to adjust their size, and place like 3 in between all these cake layers, so that helps stabilize them and keep them from shifting or moving, especially with a compote or jam or lemon curd in between. It just makes it a little less stable. So that's what I would usually do. I think I apparently used it all when I made steak skewers a few weeks ago and forgot to restock. So I'll probably do that tomorrow morning as well. I didn't realize how tall this was gonna be. I just tested it out with this, but like the edges kind of hit the rim, which is not a big deal. So I may go ahead and frost the sides of it, and then I can just make it look pretty in the morning. I'm doing this the worst way possible. I'm definitely not a professional cake decorator. It's still something I'm learning, but one little trick that my mom did teach me a while back is to wet an offset spatula to help smooth out the outer coating of frosting. And it does help. Again, this is just one of those things that it's a craft I really need to work on more. That's why we're gonna decorate it really fun. Add some whimsical piping tomorrow, some flowers, some glitter. I'm gonna clean up the edges, work on that top half of the cake, and then call it a day. And I will see you guys tomorrow. Hello, welcome back, you guys. It is 3 o'clock. The picnic is at 6:30, but I'm actually gonna head over a little early at 5 because my sister-in-law and I are gonna try to hang up some like Christmas lights. Not the solar outdoor lights because they won't have enough time to charge. Also, I'm not about to take those down off of my back patio. We had brainstormed like maybe Christmas lights and plug it into their shed. So that's actually really cute. But this morning my mom and I went to the farmer's market together and got these beautiful wildflowers. I'm really excited. That's like the best place to get flowers for us. And these foxgloves, which we're actually planting today outside or around the chicken coop. So didn't realize that came like a bush. I thought it grew like a wildflower, kind of similar to snapdragons. You learn something new every day. But a little catch up. So we have our cake. This is like the base, the main cake. And then, oh, the little baby one's over here. And then the baby one, which is gonna go on top. Yesterday, I was getting like overstimulated with, it was just hot in my kitchen. So the frosting, the buttercream was not as firm as it should be. And I was just like, I gotta step away from it. That's always the best thing to do. So what we're gonna do is I put these in the fridge for about 2 hours so the Italian Swiss meringue buttercream is nice and firm. I also gave them an extra coating, like an extra layer of buttercream on the outside. We're gonna assemble it, maybe add some edible glitter. My thing with flowers, when adding the fresh flowers, you also want a tough stem. This is what I mean, like a thick, tough stem, because that's gonna help it stick straight up instead of falling over. Poppies are probably the only ones that are a little more flimsy when it comes to the stem. I don't think I have one poppy. With the flowers, you really only want to like stick them into your cake to decorate the last hour to 2 hours before serving it. They'll kind of grab moisture from the frosting itself to keep them looking beautiful, but then after that they'll slowly start to bend because they'll lose all their moisture in them because obviously they're used to sitting in a glass of water. So yeah, let's get to it. Wait, that's not bad. I just made a little extra buttercream and I wasn't gonna do some fun piping. I mean, I did think about it, but then I was like, we're gonna use all the wildflowers, we don't need it. But seeing the little bit of crack around, my OCD is kicking in and we need to do a little bit of fun piping. For this, I'm just doing a really simple vanilla bean buttercream. And then again, I naturally colored it with dragon fruit powder. Maybe like little swirls. I do not have enough stability in one hand to twirl it as we go. I'm kind of realizing the cake is leaning a little bit, but it's made from scratch, so of course it's gonna lean a little bit. Okay, that's cute. I like that. We gotta choose a front side. She's kind of looking hilarious. Definitely uneven. Come on! Oh my word, there's so much left. Oh my gosh, wait, I can't. This is so dumb. We gotta make this look better. Add some edible glitter. Oop! The wind's blowing in my face. It makes it like a fairyland. Now I have it all over me.